Viscount Leisure, my name's Charles. I'm going to take you on a very quick just walk around tutorial video of this Swift Elegance 580, just so we know what we need to do when we get to site, how everything operates and how we get the heat and hot water on, that sort of thing. When you first get to site, what you want to make sure you're doing is making sure your van is nice and level. That's A, for your comfort, and B, the van will operate better in that situation, including things like the fridge. So we're going to level our van front to back using our jockey wheel on the front there. Okay, so we wind it up, wind it down on the front until we're nice and level front to back, because what we will use is a spirit level on a flat surface, ideally inside, just to make sure that that is sat nice and level. If you need to raise or lower one side of the van, you can get levelling wedges that you drive one side of the van up onto just to raise or lower that side of the van. But once it's level, we're then going to go to our front locker and get our leg winder, and we're going to wind down all four legs, as you can see just here, onto the floor of our pitch. What we don't want to be doing though is trying to level the caravan on those. They're not designed to take that kind of pressure. They will break and probably damage the floor of your caravan. So what we do is we level it on the jockey wheel first, and then we do the corner steadies. Right, let's go around the van. You can see we've got a motor mover here on the van. It's an auto engaged one. We'll show you that and how that operates when you pick up the van. You've got an external power point outside, 230 volt. That's for when we're plugged into mains. An external gas barbecue point there as well. We have our hitch head here. All right, we'll do a full hitch up with you anyway, but just a couple of things of note. A, you'll need a 13 pin plug on your car, or an adapter to make sure that you can operate with 13 pins. We have an Alco stabilising hitch head, so you will need an Alco compatible tow ball. So speak to your fitter about that, or if you've got any questions, just give us a shout and we can try and help you with that. You'll also need to make sure, if it's a new tow ball, that you're sanding off the paint off the actual ball itself, so we're down to bare metal. And also, if we are have an existing tow ball with grease on it, that needs to be thoroughly cleaned off back to bare metal. We don't want any grease up inside that stabilising hitch head onto the friction pads, otherwise it will become null and void. Right, talking about our gas locker, which is just in here, this is where we need to carry our gas bottles. I've got my test one in here, as you can see. We're set up for running on propane. A couple of things of note: when we're travelling, you can see there are these cradles that they sit in. They must sit in these cradles and they must be strapped in, okay, when you're travelling. And also the bottles must be turned off from the top. All right, so make sure they're turned off and strapped in. The way you put in the gas hose goes in on an opposite thread into these bottles. All right, so excuse me, sorry, it's not lefty loosey righty tighty. We go the other way round, and you will need a gas spanner or an adjustable spanner just to nip that up nice and tightly, so we've got a good seal on it. All right, and then once we get to site, we open the bottle from the top. That will allow the gas to come through our gas hose into our bulkhead regulator, which will then send the gas at the right pressure through to our appliances in the van. Also in here, you've got your jack. We've also got our external shower point here as well, because there is an external shower on this van, and you've got a wheel brace and some hose as well. All right, that's some waste hose, and we'll show you where that goes in just a second. Coming around this side, so this is where we're going to start attaching things to the van, but we'll have a look at a couple of bits. This is our boiler flue here. So we've got an Aldi boiler on board, so it's a wet central heating system, and what that will do is it will run on 240 volt when we're plugged in. It will also run on gas when we're not, so a bit like your flue at home, it needs to be able to vent the warm air, the exhaust out of there, so that's what that's for. It does get quite warm when you're running on gas, so just bear in mind, and also don't cover it up. This is where our water comes into the van, so you'll need an aqua roll such as the one I've got here. When you get to site, you'll fill that up, bring it back to your van, and you've got two covers here. One is direct to the taps, which is the bottom one, and the top one is direct to our onboard tank, because we do have an onboard tank sitting in the front of this van as well, and we'll have a look at that when we're inside. I've just got it running straight from the aqua roll at the moment, so what you would do is drop the bottom of your pickup into the barrel and then into the side of the van. We do it that way round because this is a semi-rigid pipe and we'll end up cracking the housing. So into the barrel first and then into the side of the van. All right, this is our external shower point there. All right, so you take the cap off the end, then we can plug our shower in from the outside, and once we've got the water pump on, we can use that outside again. That is pretty simple. We'll have a look. Once that's set up like that, we can leave it and we'll work out how the rest of it works when we get inside. This is where our power is. Now we've got two forms of power. 12 volt coming from our 12 volt battery here. Now this battery will stay on the van because we have a solar panel on the roof and we can't leave two live terminals just in here in case they touch. Can't guarantee the battery, but it seems to be okay. So this will provide power to the things like our lights, our solar, our water pump, our fridge panel, and bits and pieces like that, so we can run the van without any mains power, and then the gas will step in where the battery doesn't work. When we are on a mains hookup site, we need a mains lead such as this one, so you'll need something along those little lines, and that plugs into here, allowing us to have domestic power into the van. When you are plugging these in, make sure you plug it into the van first, then into your post. The reason for that, we're not walking around with a live cable. And then also, if you do have it on a reel, take it off the reel and flake it out, a bit like I've got here. We don't want it on a nice tight coil because it does draw a lot of current and can get very hot and end up melting some cables. So make sure it's all flaked out quite nicely, that way it'll all stay nice and cool. These are our fridge vents, nothing you need to worry about with here. But the way the fridge works is it uses heat to cool, so it is pulling the cold air in from the bottom and the warm air is coming out the top. I've got everything running in there at the moment, so there's nice warm air coming out of that at the moment, so that tells me the fridge is doing what it needs to be doing. We know where our fresh water goes in, so where does our wastewater come out? And that comes out over here. All right, this is where our waste comes out from. So the grey hose that you saw in the front locker, that is fits perfectly into there, and you'll have a waste master that lays down here, okay, and that will then fill up from your things like your sink, your shower, and also the sink in your bathroom as well. Once that's full, of course, take it to your service point, and then you can empty it there, bring it back empty. We've also got a toilet here as well, separate flush tank at the top, and a cassette toilet in the bottom. I'll just grab the keys so I can show you the cassette, but that flush tank, you need to make sure you've got some kind of receptacle for filling it up with that and some chemical. As I say, we do put some chemical in there. The keys, we can go and open the locker, but as I say, just make sure you're putting the right amount of chemical in. The bottle will tell you what you need to do. You're either going to put pink or you're going to put green into this top one. And then obviously when you flush the toilet, it's got to go somewhere, and that goes down into here. Which is our Thetford toilet cassette, okay? So this just quite simply pulls out like so. All right, you can see it's on wheels. That handle does extend as well, a bit like a suitcase. So when we get to our service point, there will be a dedicated point to empty these on site. We take that out to 90 degrees, take the cap off the end. We've got this button here, that's the important bit. Press that, that releases the air pressure inside the unit and allow you to tip everything down the chute easily. And then what you want to be doing is just flushing out again. Generally there's a hose pipe there, just put a bit more water into it, give it a shake around, get rid of the rest of it. Then you want to reprime this, either again with blue chemical or green goes into here, depending on what you prefer. And again, the instructions for how much to put in will be on the bottle. Then once that's reprimed, you take it back to your caravan, and very simply just slides back in, clips into place, and we shut the door. All right, so that's your toilet. Coming around the back, don't forget you'll need a number plate depicting the car that you are driving, just as a quick side note really. That's everything from the outside set up, so we can go in and start turning bits and pieces on. Right, in we go. Right. When you get into the thing to lock the door, you push that up and that will lock it so people can't get in from the outside. All right, but you do need to give it a little bit of not a slam, but a positive close. Right, once we're inside, first thing we want to do is we need to close all the drain valves and all of our taps. So go around, make sure all the taps are shut. You should have left them open when you left your van before. We'll talk about a little bit more about that when we shut the van down, okay? But close all the taps, and then we're going to come down to this locker at the front here, okay? And we're going to open this up and close our drain valves. Now these are these two yellow switches here. We've got one there and one there. When you get to the van, you'll find them in the upwards position. Just drop them down like so. So actually, to be fair, all the instructions for this are on here. They're actually quite good. We've got, as I said, we can either run off the aqua roll outside, or we can run off of the onboard tank, which is situated just here. I've got it running off the outboard at the minute, so you can see external supply just there. We want both of these down, okay, and we want this little toggle thing over here pointing in that direction like it is, okay. If we were running from the internal tank, we will quite simply turn that pointing down, and that would allow us to run from the internal tank. So what you can always do is come fill this tank up, go back, fill up your aqua roll again, and then you've got double the amount of water, so you don't have, then you have to keep switching around, but just, you know, it's up to you how you want to do it. So but anyway, this is the position we want it in for the moment, just like that. Then we need to start filling our boiler up. Our boiler is situated just underneath here, okay. So when you first get to it, of course, it will just be full of air, won't have any water in it, so we need to get water into that and then to our taps. So we've got to prime the system. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to come and make sure that our 12-volt system is all turned on in here. So underneath here is our Sergeant unit. So one side here, this is our 12-volt side here, and this is our 240-volt side here. So you've got a button right at the end, so it says system shut down on it. So you want to make sure that is pressed down, and that way we know we've got access to 240-volt power. You can see all the fuses are in there as well, so if you need to change a fuse, this is where you're going to come to do it. It's all listed down here on the side as to what they all do. It's the same with the trips as well on that side. This is all the 240-volt when you're plugged into mains. Yeah, again, a bit like at home, you have a trip switches. You also, if you're plugged into mains, need to make sure that these two buttons are illuminated. That one is for your heating and one is for your battery charger, because it will charge your leisure battery while you're plugged in. So make sure they're illuminated, otherwise your heating and hot water won't work and your battery charger won't work. Okay. This one here is your main RCD. So if you're struggling to get mains into the van, you can test it from here using that little yellow button. If you press this button and this trips out, it tells us we've got 240-volt in the van. If you press this and it stays in the upwards position and doesn't drop, that tells us we don't have 240-volt power in the van. You need to go and check your post when you are plugged into, because they also have these trip switches on them as well. 9 times out of 10 you'll find that's where the problem is, and it's tripped out there, or your mains lead isn't plugged in properly, or something along those kind of lines. But that just tells us if you're trying to plug your hairdryer in and it's not working, it's a good place to come and test to see if we've actually got 240-volt coming into the van. Right, so once we've done that, we come and turn on our panel. So this is our 12-volt panel at the top here. It's already on for me at the moment, as you can see. All right, so power, and then I'm going to press water pump and turn on my water pump like so. All right, that's just telling me that my fresh water tank is empty. I know it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my tap. I'm going to turn it over to the hot side and turn the tap on. All right, you can see I've got a nice steady flow of water here because I've had this going already. All right, but so I just wanted that to be quiet. Right, that will stop in a minute. As you can see, I've got a nice steady flow of water. What you will get initially is a load of coughing and spluttering. The reason for that is it's pushing all the air out of the boiler, so it needs to find its way all the way in, fill up the boiler and all the way to the taps. It will gurgle, cough and splutter until it gets itself to your tap like so. All right, then do the cold side, lift up. This will be much quicker because we're not, he's doing a little bit there, we've still got some air in the system. It's not filling a boiler up, it's coming straight from the aqua roll. Okay, so that will be much quicker. Now, if you were going to fill your inboard tanking up, what you would do is you would come in here and you would turn this down to there, okay, and then you would just quite simply come in here and press the fill tank button. All right, and then what that will do is pull the water from your aqua roll outside into your tank, and then again you can just start running it from that side. All right, I'm just going to stop doing that now. I'm going to put it back over to my external tank, and there we go. Really simple. So once that's all done, we also want to start heating that water up in the boiler and potentially put our heating on things as well. So that's where we come over here. This is our Audi panel. We have a wet central heating system on board. So what you're going to come in is turn this panel on if it needs turning on. All right, and this is my standby screen. Tells me I'm plugged into mains. Tells me it's 21 degrees in here. To wake the panel up, I'm going to press the menu button. And this is really simple. What we're going to do is we've got our internal temperature just here, so we can turn that up. It's all touch screen. Okay, up and down to whatever temperature we want it to be. All you have to do is get to the desired temperature and just leave it, all right? It will sort itself out. We then want to turn on our hot water, so we're going to come down and we've got a picture of a shower just there. So we're going to turn that off. So we can have the whole water system off. It's not actually letting me turn it off. I think it's because it's already hot in there, that's why. So if that triangle is empty, that is the hot water off, all right? If you got it halfway up, that it means that the water is hot, and that is where you want to leave it 9 times out of 10. And then if we push it up like that, that is a boost setting. What that will do is prioritize your hot water over your heating system. Okay, yeah, so if you want to have a couple of back-to-back showers or something along those sort of lines, it will say, I'm not going to bother heating anything up. I'm going to put all my power into heating up your hot water, all right? Then I need to select what kind of power I'm using, all right? So I can use electricity, which you can see we've got a little lightning bolt, or I can use gas, depending on if I'm on a hookup site or not. I'm on a hookup, so I'm using 2 kilowatts of power to heat my van and my water. Or I can use 1 kilowatt, 2 kilowatts, or 3 kilowatts, depending on what power I've got access to. I can turn it off completely, of course. Okay. So the reason you can change that is some sites have access to different amounts of power, and also you'll be using different things within your van. So say I was running this on 3 kilowatts of power. I had my air fryer going in here. I've got my fridge going on mains. I've got the hairdryer going and my TV. It might start tripping things out on that fuse board we looked at earlier. That tells me I'm trying to draw too much current. So I might come in here and say, right, well, if I turn this down to 1 kilowatt, that means I can carry on watching TV. I can, do whatever I need to do. Obviously, the higher the power is the quicker everything will warm up. So it's all a bit of a balancing act. But if I'm also off grid and I want to light my boiler on gas, I quite simply just press the button there. All right, go on. There we go. So you got off that side, on that side, and it will light the boiler on gas. Kind of as simple as that, really. You can run it in conjunction with the two of them together. So I could technically have gas and 3 kilowatts of power. So if it was freezing cold, I want to heat everything up really, really, really quickly. I could come in here, put it all on full, and then come back and go, right, I'll turn my gas off now, and I'll turn that down to 2 kilowatts, and then I can start doing other things in the van. All right, so that's kind of the basics of it. There are other settings you can go into. I won't go into that now. But your main bits are temperature in the van, hot water on, off, or on boost. Am I using electric or am I using gas? And if I'm using electric, how much electric am I using? Really simple. And then with this van, we've got our lovely Domatic air conditioning unit sat up there as well. All right. So it's a quick rundown on how that works. Again, it's pretty simple. The main on-off button for it is there. So if I press that, you can see the orange light goes out. If I turn it on, you can see the orange light goes on. I can turn the lights on round it by pressing the light button there, okay, or I can use my remote, okay, and I can turn it on and off from here. This does need to be on with an orange light in order to operate from the remote control. Okay, so I can turn my lights on and off by taking the cover off here, and I can turn my lights on there, right, as you can see. All right, I can also turn the actual unit on by pressing OK, all right. And then I've got my mode button there, so I can press mode, and you can see it's set for cold at the moment, but I can set it for, recirc or warming or lots of other different things. Generally, I imagine you would have it on cold, and then I can change my temperature here as well. And then my fan speed is this one here, and I can change my fan speed by pressing that button. All right. They're not the quietest things in the world, but it certainly will make a difference on a hot day. All right. And I'll just turn that off, but that is pretty much how that works. Again, if you want to turn it off completely, you just turn it off from there if you want to get rid of that orange light. Right, that is most of it in terms of that side of stuff. Just have a quick look around. Let's talk about just the windows and the blinds quickly. They all open in the same way, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then you open them to the desired openness, if that's the right word. And then we've got these little screws here each side. We just tighten those up, and that will hold the window in the position you want it to be in. All right, and then of course loosen them off to shut it. We can then of course lock it, but we can also lock it slightly open, a bit like windows at home. So you can kind of lock it, I'll call it a breather setting, I suppose, and then that will just give you some airflow around the van. Although I would suggest if you're towing, well, if you are towing, make sure they're shut properly, and if you're going out for any kind of period of time, make sure they are all locked up properly. Every window has a blind, and anything that opens will have a fly screen as well. All right, so that's that. Again, all the windows open the same way. Obviously got a big skylight there that doesn't open, but it does have a blind, so we can black out the cabin completely. Okay, You've got a stereo in here as well. The faceplate for that is within your book pack just there. All right. And once that's on the front, you can see you've got a little cable here that will plug into the front of it. So you can then plug in your phone just here on that little with a 3mm jack, 3.5mm jack. And you can play your phone through the stereo. I've just noticed that in there as well, which is good. That is there to hold your drill remote for the Dometic thing. Again, you'll find this in your book pack as well. I'm just going to put that on top so I don't forget to put it in there. Okay, right, going through the kitchen, we have an extendable worktop here. We have light switches, two 240 volt sockets that are available when we are plugged into mains. Got a little plug holder there as well, that's quite cool. In here, this little gadget up there, we've got a solar panel on the roof. That is the charge controller for it. So that is trickle charging your battery. Nothing you need to worry about, but it's doing its job all by itself. These little catches here, as it gets hot and cold in here, can get a bit sticky. I'd suggest getting some silicone spray for these sort of things every now and again. Just go and give them a little bit of a spray just to keep them going. The same with all like the seals on your lockers and stuff like that. Silicone spray will keep it all nice and soft and supple and working properly. We've talked about the hot water and the cold water, the mixer tap. Just bear in mind, this does get very hot, this water. 60 degrees it will heat up to. So if you've got it all the way over on hot, bear in mind that does get, I mean, I can't even touch that now. So if you've got kids or young people, just bear that in mind. Okay, let's talk about the hob. When we're traveling, make sure the glass stays down, not up. They bounce around a lot in here, and we have seen these smashed on the floor. So it's very important that stays down when we're traveling. Exactly the same with the microwave plate. Make sure you remove that. We see dented tops, all sorts of stuff. I'll put it in your book pack. That's where you'll find it. But don't travel with that in there. And also make sure that this is taken down as well. 3 gas burner hob and an electric hot plate. The hot plate's only usable when you're plugged into mains, but obviously the gas will run off your gas as long as you've A, turned your bottle on, and B, you've got enough gas in there. All works really simply. That is the igniter just there. I'm sure you know how to use the hob, so you just hold it down. There we go, and that will just light it, all right? I would suggest when you first turn your gas on, come and turn on one of these just for a minute or so, just to allow the air through the system again, a bit like the water, and you'll find when you try and light it later on, it will just be easier. Electric gas grill, gas oven. Bear in mind this is isn't a domestic oven, it is a caravan oven, so it may take slightly longer to cook things than you think it does, so just keep that in the back of your mind. Down in here, you can see you've got another 3-pin socket. That is the plug for the electric hot plate on the top of the hob there. All right. In here, we've got our pantry, but also our gas isolators are just down through here as well. So if you do need to isolate anything, that's where you come to do it. You shouldn't really need to, but just good to know where they are. Okay, we'll talk about the fridge. Dometic 3-way fridge. What that means, it runs on 3 different types of power. I've got it set, as you can see, on mains plug-in at the moment because I'm plugged into mains, and why wouldn't I? I've probably already paid for my electric on site. The on-off button is this one here. If you hold that down, it will light up. I can change the temperature on my fridge by pressing this button here, as you can see. If I'm not on mains hookup, I want to light the fridge on gas. Really simple. Press the gas button and it will light itself. This is what I'm talking about. If you are off grid, light your hob first before you do that, because it will allow the gas through the system. Otherwise, you might be waiting ages for this to light. This is it will tell you if it's not lit, because this will start to alarm. A bit like if I press this one here, which will give us. It looks like it will run off the Leisure battery. That's not what it means. It means it will run off your car when you're towing. So the 12-volt side of your car. So if I press that, because I'm not plugged into mains, you can see that alarms. All right. Bear in mind, if you are using that function, it's not as powerful as the gas or the mains plug-in, so it won't really chill it down particularly quickly. In fact, very slowly. So if you're going to use it when you're traveling and you want things to stay really cold, get your fridge cold first and then add it in, or add some ice packs in or something like that. But you'll come up with your own way of doing things. To open the fridge, push on the top, that will open there. Again, it's been on lovely and cold in there. The ice box at the top, so you've got a freezer section there, and then the rest of it is just a fridge. Okay, that's pretty much everything. You can see we've got our TV point there as well, and some sockets, so you can put a TV here. There is also a bracket on the wall. Just be careful about not putting anything too heavy on there, especially when we're bouncing around and driving. Okay. In here is your you've got a draining board and a chopping board that will go over your sink. All right. This is our table, freestanding table that will go in our dining area or outside or wherever you want to go, to be fair. TV aerial is there, directional TV aerial in the downwards position at the moment. This is a locking nut holding it in place, and I can push it up and turn it round. And I can change the plane of it as well if I want to, so I can completely adapt that. Just bear in mind, don't forget when you finish with it or you're driving, just pull it down just to make sure that you're not going to take any trees out when you're towing. So yeah, that's just something to think about. Then it goes through to this booster box here. The on-off switch is on the top, and then we've got a gain on the front. I'll just leave that on maximum, and to be fair, you could just leave this on because it will turn on and off with your with the 12-volt switch over the door. But if you're trying to conserve power, you could come and turn that off if you wish. This is our bed in daytime mode at the moment. You can see all your carpets are underneath there. We know about our Sergeant unit underneath it. So it's in day mode now. So I can pull this out and drop this other bit in the back to give myself a longer bed at night. The reason they do that is just so that it's easier to walk around during the day. All right. Again, another TV point here, so I can have a small TV here as well if I want. Also got my vanity unit here as well, and some light switches. Light switches dotted all over the place, so you'll have to have a little fiddle around to find those. You can see one of our big long radiators coming along here, and our individual reading lights over the bed. This door here is a sliding door into our bathroom. Now, when you're traveling, again, make sure that you're keeping this locked, all right, and locked into place. The reason I say that is, again, it bounces around, and this door going backwards and forwards, you'll damage it, all right? So make sure that's locked into place when you're traveling. Going into the bathroom, this is our toilet. We saw it from the outside, so our flush tank's at the top here. The cassette is in the bottom, just in here. So you use the toilet in the normal way, all right? And then when you finish with it, you flush the toilet. That's the flush there. You can hear the pump running. And that will then spurt some coloured, whichever colour you've decided to go for, liquid into the pan. Then we need to open the gate for it all to drop into the cassette, and we use this lever just here. Push that to one side, that opens it up, everything drops down, and then I can shut that completely again. Making sure this is all the way over, because that's what's holding the smell in and everything that's inside that's breaking down in there. So that's your seal between what's in your toilet and what's in your van. All right, so keep that all the way over. Also, if that's not all the way over, you won't actually be able to remove the cassette from its housing. So if you're struggling to pull that cassette out, don't try and force it because you'll break it. It's because this isn't all the way over, and that happens quite a lot. Light switch for the bathroom in here. Also speakers in here as well, so you can sing along when you're in the shower. Okay, shower is here. Again, make sure this is held back. You can see there's a little catch just up in here for when we are not travelling, so that just flicks up like so, and then we can shut this. If not, we just make sure it's all the way down. That just holds us in place, stops it bouncing around. Got a little drying rack in here as well. Just bear in mind with this shower, okay, it is a caravan shower, so you've only got as much hot water as is in the boiler. So it's short showers, not long showers, because otherwise you'll get yourself a bit of a shock. Okay, so that is pretty much everything. You've got a concertina door here as well. I'm not sure if I mentioned that or not, but that will slide across just to give you a little bit of privacy. Right, we've been on holiday, we've had a nice time, so let's start breaking the van down, ready for the road. So what we're going to do, I'm going to come and turn my fridge off because I'm not going to be using that any longer. You may well not do that because you might be using the function with your car, but don't forget that you will need to come and turn this off when you get back to wherever you're leaving your caravan. Otherwise it will start to drain your battery down, because that won't turn off with your switch over the top here. With that in mind, what I'm going to do is come and turn off my heating system. You're best to turn this off first and then turn off your main panel, because it will just stop any error codes happening. I'm then going to turn this off. 1, 2. Then we want to get rid of any water in the system. So firstly, we're going to come and drain the system down. We look for our instructions here where it says drain system. So we just basically need to open that one and open this one. You can hear all the water starting to drain. Okay, so we just want to make sure that that's all the way over there and these two are up, which it is. We're then going to go and find our taps again. Now, we talked about leaving them open, so you want to make sure you're leaving them open in between hot and cold. The reason we're doing this is we're going to allow air through the system. So, I mean, the worst case scenario of this, if you imagine you have freezing weather, water expands when it freezes, okay? And the amount of times we have that happen, people forget to do this, and they come back, try and plumb up the system. The taps are stuck, they've got cracked taps, cracked pipes, and they get water over the floor and everywhere, or the taps aren't working, or something like that. So if you get in the habit of leaving it with all your taps open and your boiler drained down and all your toilet and everything drained down as well, then you're not going to go too far wrong. There is a, I'll show you where you drain the toilet in a minute actually. Okay, that's everything inside. Obviously making sure you get rid of your microwave plate, you've shut this down as well. We then need to just start tidying up outside a little bit. So come in, make sure your bottle is strapped in, turn your gas bottle off. I'm actually going to remove this because this is my test gas bottle. You're then going to come and disconnect your Aquaroll and your Wastemaster. Again, little trigger here, pull that, give it a wiggle. Right, and just pull that out and give it a shake. I'll put this in your front locker. What you want to be careful of when you're stowing this is these black rings here. So this is what creates the seal. So you want to make sure you're looking after these. A lot of people just keep these in the sink. Quite a good place to keep it in my mind because it doesn't get stuff put on top of it. But those seals are very important. Okay, then what you're going to do is you're going to unplug your van from your mains. My colleague's just given me a nod to tell me he's already done it from our post, which means I can unplug it from here. There we go. And then I'm going to get rid of my Aquaroll and my Wastemaster, sorry, and stow that away. I'm going to make sure I've drained everything down in here. To drain my flush tank down, just underneath here there's this little hose. Take the stopper at the end and let it drain away. Make sure you've emptied your cassette as well. And then you're going to lift up your corner steadies, get yourself hitched up and check everything is locked and stowed away and you're ready for the road. So hopefully that has helped and makes some sort of sense. We are at the end of the phone if you need it, so please give us a shout, but enjoy your new van.